Or 2. The Code Index. Art. Ideas of awareness, responsive thought. Or another world existence. STEM. Ideas of space, time and matter. The He Galaxy. Honourable existence. The Human. Honourable university of memorably experienced notions. The Roy. All in lowercase. Race of ideas and STEM. The Roy with a capital R. The race of ideas and art. The She Galaxy. Supremely honourable existence. We. Wanted expression. Wonderful experience. Dubious. Anything said about the She Roy, the Roy native to the She Galaxy, is as possibly right as it could also be wrong, and that is where the truth is, for their complexity is beyond the measure of the He Roy from the human at the He Galaxy. The She Roy progress. When the She Roy gather together with a particular form or reason, they create a notion, a pattern of togetherness, each nest more integrated than the one before, with the aim to create a place called attraction. Compare the Roy 1. Progress. As the Roy of choice will, are, have gathered together in particular form or reason, they create a notion, a pattern of like progressive tests, each test more complex than the one that preceded it, with the aim to reach a place called ascension. Q&A. The reader. Does the word Roy mean king? The author. 1. Thank you for your participation. 2. The information the watchers have received has come from the author. 3. The interpretation of the information is through the characters seen within the author's universe. Currently this video as a work of creative writing, meant for your participation by way of questioning what has been presented. See the Code Index. Q&A 4. The Roy is the race of ideas that the author has injected into the characters of the author's universe, and open to a wide interpretation to procreate the race of ideas in all the watchers. 5. How have you, the watcher, come to create the race of ideas to consider the Roy to mean king? 6. Enlightenment comes with the understanding of the question and not by the provision of an answer. 7. In reality, the sphere which both the author and you, the watcher, occupy, there is a different code, a different language, where the characters bond together to form the Roy, meaning king. 8. If you see king in the author's universe, where this body of characters appear, then that might create a broader understanding, giving the race of ideas something more to consider, but not restricted to that alone. 9. Initially, Roy, and Roy with a capital R, in the author's universe means race and race of ideas. The She-Roy attraction. Attraction is the sphere of all integration for the She-Roy, and from that came the creation of we, wanted expression and the wonderful experience. Compare the Roy 1:6. Ascension. Ascension is the sphere of all inspiration, and from that came the creation of me, momentary existence, and the memorable experience, me. The She-Roy decision. From we, there was gradation by the She-Roy from that point on, giving placement to presentation. Compare the Roy 1. Division. From me, momentary existence, and the memorable experience, me, there was nominated by the Roy of choice from that point on division between formulations. And remember, or to 1. Dubious. Anything said about the She-Roy, the Roy native to the She galaxy, is as possibly right as it could also be wrong, and that is where the truth is, for their complexity is beyond the measure of the He-Roy from the human at the He galaxy. The She-Roy valuation. The She-Roy had knowledge of all the Roy, Stan, and themselves, art, and particularly of there being a difference between them, and a verification system developed whereby the She art was supreme and determined the place of the Roy 1, to, and from another. Compare the Roy 1. Valuation. The Roy of choice had knowledge of the Roy and themselves, and particularly of there being a difference between them, and the valuation system developed, like there might be the value of one kind of order over that of another kind of order, and the value of one was supreme over the choice of another. The She-Roy constant. The one fundamental constant was, is, and will be that every relationship, good, bad, or indifferent, lasts because of its support by and the resistance to any other relationship that happens to share the same arena. Compare the Roy
1.
Constant. The one fundamental constant was, is, and will be that every order, however long it lasts because of its support by and resistance to any other order it happens to coincide with. The Shiroi relationship. The relationship of things restricted in ability to change were the most stubborn, stam, and such things needed addressing or dressing, for they had no emotive consideration such as one to another, and they could affect the ambience, atmosphere of a scene. Compare
The Roy 1.
Order of the Roy. The order of the Roy, who were without a choice, were the most steadfast, and such orders could be fractured or broken, but the orders applied to cause those fractures and brokenness were usually short in appliance, but the effects were and are longer lasting. The Shiroi Ocean. Because no one relationship could be seen to exist isolated from that of another, the realm of the Shiroi, stam, or art, exists in an ocean of cranial fluid that is highly charged and viscous in seeking protection from the massive expanding spatial system, the mess of universal proportions. Compare
The Roy 1.
Ocean of space. Because no order exists or existed isolated from that of any other order, the realm of the Roy and the Roy of choice exists in an ocean of fluidic space, in a notion of cranial matters, filling the entire universe at every conceivable level. The Definer. The He-Roy art and the Roy stem and the She-Roy art or otherwise is defined, and the Shiroi is the definer even of the self. Remember
The Roy 1.
Example: an ocean and a notion might even be the closest to being one and the same in example to the difference between the Roy and the Roy of choice, but it is an illusion created by an aid towards teaching. And remember the Watcher. You are the Watcher, and what you recall of what you have read is not what you saw, but what you have thought of. For what you have seen, what you are currently seeing, and what you shall continue to see is a code